Wednesday evening. Nice to be with you. As always, a lot to talk about and a lot of people to do that talking, including former TV funny girl. I think that's a title you always have, isn't it, once you've left the small screen?
Is that assuming I'm no longer funny?
No, not all former TV.
Well, previously funny, but no longer.
She will be tonight. Magda Szymanski. Also with us, a woman I'm proud to say has been nicotine-free now for...
Don't
tell me. Don't tell me.
Well, if you'd asked me before about...
I'll just say 6 months.
Yes.
You're lying.
No, not 6 months. Maybe 3 months.
6 minutes. Kate Langbrook, please.
Why did you ask me for a week?
I just figured it was still going well, and
No,
obviously...
it still is. I've had a little flirtation.
We all...
Just the image of you on patches is like...
Oh, no patches.
No patches?
Oh,
Okay.
no. Magda and I, in fact, coincidentally gave up the same way.
How was that, Kate?
Through a book.
Oh, that's the book.
I did the course. I did a seminar.
Oh, did you do the...
Yeah, and I haven't smoked for about 2.5 years. I'm so glad to
Are you
be free of
tempted
it.
now?
What is it? The devil off my back, the monkey off my back? Never. Not even like the merest, tiniest flicker of a trace. And it's over like, before you even... Just as you barely notice it, it's gone already.
So if you could speak to the smokers out there, what would you say to them?
Which I'd still look at the risk of sounding like a boring old fart,
A born again
reformed smoker. The fact is that everyone who smokes really does want to give up, and that's why people get angry and justify it so strongly, because they feel like it's very difficult. But if you approach it in the right way, it's amazing. If you can get your mind to think along the right lines, you just sort of turn it around, it just goes and does it. And I did the Alan Carr. Can I do it?
Easy.
Stop smoking the easy way. And I did this seminar with a woman called Trudy Ward, and it was fantastic.
Kate, you bought a book but didn't actually read it, obviously.
No, I've obviously been tearing the pages out and rolling drum up in there.
Small digression.
It does. I hasten to add, though, it has a hugely high success rate.
It changes the way you think about smoking. It's quite interesting.
Also with us tonight, a man I'm proud to call Rob Sitch. Please welcome Rob along.
It's a very good audience tonight, and I said, just as we were welcome tonight, I said, now I know what it feels like to be a wiggle. Yeah, it's at that level.
Yes.
There's applause and then there's wiggle applause.
I was feeling like I was going to get up and do a bit of a bum dance, I thought, because I like to think I did it before Sarah Marie, actually.
We probably have documentary.
I'll fight her over that. Oh, yeah.
Also with us, probably the most relaxed member of the team tonight, because he's just got back from a holiday in Queensland. Say hello to Mr. Glenn Robbins.
I'm feeling very relaxed because I've just taken up smoking.
Oh, good. You flew, presumably?
Yeah, I flew back from Queensland.
I haven't been to an airport since the whole Ansett collapse. What are they like?
We left very early in the morning, but at 6 o'clock in the morning there were like 300 people lining up, and of course I went down the special line.
Had you booked before, or you booked since Ansett?
No, we were... Oh, actually, I've got some breaking news. Would you like to hear the breaking news? That Ansett planes will be flying between major capital cities this weekekend.
Oh, fantastic.
Under a plan backed by the federal government. 11 Ansett A320s will be flying within 2 weeks.
They're the modern ones, aren't they, that they think they are worth getting...
13,000 seats, and around 1,500 Ansett staff will be... getting their jobs back, and I'm going to ring up straight away and say they've got a frequent flyer seat available.
Chances are slim, aren't they?
Yeah.
I know.
Hey, do you? I was asking Tom this before. Do you pay attention now in the safety demonstration?
Yes. No, we talked about this before. I quite like, because I like it when they pull the thing down. They pull it top. I like that. I like that bit. I
always glance up at least once. I mean, you've heard it 1,000 times, and everyone's just got the newspapers and magazines up. But I feel if everyone can at least just kind of look at token once, then it's
at a key moment.
At a key moment, yeah.
Where the straps get moved around.
Straps, good. Where are the emergency doors? Okay, you've got that.
The whistle.
Are any of you nervous flyers, though? I am. I'm a terribly... I like to try and pretend I'm on a bus, which is...
a bus
I don't like it when they talk on the PA. It's like I'm trying to pretend I'm on a bus.
Oh, no.
Shut up.
And that 33,000 feet thing kind of blows it.
It blows it. 3 feet,
Well, don't go up into the cockpit because I assume that they know what they're doing every time. But in the cockpit, they will, as they're coming in, they'll decide. They'll go, we go around that cloud there, maybe. Didn't you do this yesterday? Why are you deciding it now? What's the big difference? What's going on? I'm going to go back now. I'm scared.
Yeah,
you know.
Did you?
Anyway, sorry, Rob.
Did you? I was just going to say, did you read that thing about the scary bit? It's like an urban myth that's true. When they grounded all the planes after the disaster the other week, there were more people that were fake Saudi airline pilots.
Oh, I read that.
They get invited up to the cockpit.
Yes. Yep.
And to get the cockpit seat.
Yep.
And imagine, the pilot that night going back, I met this lovely Saudi pilot today.
Yes, really.
And we never got to fly because we were grounded.
Oh, I know.
And then someone says, have a look at the news.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that send a chill up your spine?
Absolutely.
But that whole incident, a couple of weeks ago was, I think, all of my worst fears realised. It was flying, it was heights, it was fire, it just struck at such primal, deep sort of fears, and I think it's still resonating now, like in everyone's thoughts and conversations.
But you know, it's interesting because there was a thing in the paper about an American airline pilot who gave this really unusual safety speech to his passengers when they got on. Did you see that?
Yes, I read that.
And he said it was fantastic because he said there's 300, you're all very brave who are flying today, and just remember, if there's any trouble on the plane, there's 300 of us.
Oh,
So use your blankets, use your pillows, and have them with you. So you can imagine, like, the people on the plane all grabbing their blankets and pillows.
yes, yeah.
Because, you always think in an abstract sense when you're flying, what if?
Yeah.
I would never have thought to throw my blanket over a
I've never seen a
hijacker
blanket as a
No,
weapon. No.
but-
Three
I've often
Stooges
thought-
use a blanket.
I've often thought of that. Like, I've often thought of, like that if someone was coming at you, a pillow or something like that would do to at least, momentarily sort of.
Really?
It is interesting.
Depends where
I
you
haven't
are.
had to use it so
No,
far.
not so
I just
far.
wanted to check, Kate, did someone ring up about the key to the travelling
Sure.
stairs?
Yes.
Yeah, you in trouble?
After that, well, no, but you know what's really bizarre? The key last week, Magda, the Ansett guys, right, had given me the key at the rally that they had used and when they'd left the vehicle, and the guy from Ansett said, "We need the key back. We need to move those mobiles." Right? How's that? Like they
They
apparently
couldn't get more keys cut.
No, well, I don't know what's going on, but
So
I
it was
had.
parked out there, and a guy supervisor's
Well,
going,
I don't know where
who's
it
got the key to
is.
that? And someone
Well,
goes,
there it
"You
is,
waved
and
it."
that girl on television.
You waved it.
But I had sent it back to the perpetrators, whose names I cannot remember.
Or
I've
reveal.
lost the key to my back door. You wouldn't have
got it
known.
here.
Just, we were flying out a Maroochydore, and the conveyor belt thing that they
Travelator.
the thing, X-ray machine.
Oh.
All right.
It broke down,
Okay.
and it's where Choglin was going to be whenever that's going to be.
Yeah.
So they were quite tight on it. So we had a full search in a Queensland.
Full body search.
I tried to get one.
Just quickly.
But and it was really funny because they were. But normally when you're getting a search, it's sort of like it's meant to be slightly intimidating.
Yeah.
But they were really nice ladies, and they were taking the bags and they're going, "Oh, that's nice. That's a nice bag. Where'd you get that from? What's that? That smells nice."
You can't quite take offence. We praise CNN's coverage of the whole the events of the last couple of weeks. It's been amazing, but even CNN occasionally things go a little bit off the rails. We got that little bit from CNN just the other night.
The National, I'm Becky Anderson. It's hour. Europe's main markets are back in the red as investors take profits from Monday's rally. Energy stocks lead the way down. But first, let's go to Anand at CNN Centre for a roundup of the main news headlines. Anand?
I'm afraid, Becky, we're going to go straight back to you. We don't have the headlines here at the moment, so we'll leave it to you in London.
Okay, very good.
And that's more live television as slick as that coming up next on the panel. You're watching the panel, possibly not. Possibly you're just listening to it on the Triple M radio network.
I know, Tom, we don't normally do Cheerios, but I'm going to do one anyway. I want to send a Cheerio to a friend of mine, Brenton, who's not feeling best tonight, and I just want to say hello and wish him all the best.
Hello, Brenton. Anyone else want to jump on the Cheerio
yes.
banner?
I wanted to. Where can I do it to my dad? Hi, Dad. He's just had quadruple bypass. I want to say hi to my dad, all the lovely staff at Knox Private Hospital who have been lovely. Sorry, probably didn't-
Quadruple? That's the big one. Yeah.
Well, it's they, once they look at the heart, they just determine, you'll know all about this from your medical history.
Yeah, but don't ask me about it.
Heart disease is basically how many arteries are blocked through plaque and, crap in the arteries.
Yes.
And despite being a very fit man, he's 77, my dad, he had 4 arteries which were blocked. And so they take them from, like, your arm and, here.
Yep.
And they basically, it's like, plumbing. They
So
rehook.
they make a bypass.
Yeah, they do a bypass. So, and thanks to his doctor Serge too, who did a wonderful job.
Oh, so he's got the zipper now.
He's got the full-on, but it's an extraordinary operation because he had the operation on Thursday and it now being Tuesday and he's up and walking around and chirpy, and so it's quite amazing the new lease on life that they
Absolutely.
get.
Have you ever had a general anaesthetic?
Wisdom. No, that's on the
Yes,
chair.
I
No, I don't think I have.
I remember that.
Yeah, well,
Because you
not
actually
that funny,
took-
Rob. It was the
No,
wisdom
no.
teeth. But yes,
No, but after you've had your
no.
wisdom teeth out, you look funny.
I did.
Yes.
No, I
So
haven't.
you're the only person I know that I remember the wisdom teeth. I said, because did you have a general anaesthetic? And you go, no, because I was actually really busy, so I had them out in the chair.
Had to schedule
You're
it
the
in.
only person
It wasn't
I've
that
ever...
bad.
Oh, I had mine done at the dental hospital. This is years ago when I was a student, and it was it was like the pliers with the,
Yeah. So
It was
just
the
yank
noise.
it
It was
out.
more. You didn't feel anything because you're so pumped with painkillers, but it was the noise of
They don't
cracking.
give you
and-
many painkillers at the dental
Oh, they've got
hospital.
to hold back a bit for
The
cost
poor
cutting.
people's place,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, we were talking about not the war, but not the war.
Yeah.
And have you been getting emails about, how you were talking before about watching, everyone trying to watch CNN and you want to get as much information as possible? I've been getting a flurry of emails that are just so stupid, but they always suck you in. You read it, you go, oh my God.
As in hoax emails?
Yeah, then they turn out. There's this classic one, right? Any of you got the one about the flight number?
Yeah.
That if you the flight number Q33NY, right?
Yeah.
You turn it into that font, wingdings underneath, right? Plane. Q is plane, 3, 2 buildings, a skull and crossbones,
Oh,
the Star of David. Go, oh my God, that's incredible. And then you go, hang on a minute, the planes weren't actually going to New York.
Yeah, they're coming
Why
from...
would
yeah.
New York be in the name of the flight?
And why would it be
Yes.
Q?
Yes,
why would it
wasn't
be?
the
And
point.
it's not.
It's not.
One of the flights was one of those.
Oh,
And-
okay, but for a while there you're
it's
going, wow.
the whole doomsday thing. It's like the Nostradamus ones that are going around like crazy. And mind you,
Oh,
they
yes.
are sort of, if
I've
the
got
text
Nostradamus
here. They're quoting is accurate, it is.
No, it's not
It is-
accurate.
Is it?
It's not
They've
accurate.
been Nostradamus.
But it-
Nostradamus is
Well,
just... Nostradamus
Next
predicted
thing-
everything
next
from my
thing-
bowel habits.
Okay.
Jesus, Nostradamus, a great crowd
on,
will
Robbie.
bring in the street.
No.
he
Can
doesn't
I
know what
do
he's talking about.
Nostradamus has talked
Get
about
him
your
here, get
bowel.
Nostradamus here.
Next thing you're
Let's see
going to
him
be...
on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Next
Get
thing
him, Nostradamus.
What's he
there
said?
will be a great thunder, Robbie.
Oh,
No, that's another spurious one. 2 brothers torn apart by chaos. The great leader will succumb. The third big war will begin when the big city is burning.
He was pissed.
And I don't know. I know the Taliban are obviously a pretty fearsome force, but if we got that shot from the front page of the paper today, I'm not sure whether they've got it all together. Okay, guys, none of us can be recognised. Okay, and you think Barry got that memo?
Where's my mask? Oh, don't worry. It's just stand over. So
And
you'll be
he
right.
thinks, no, I remembered Mystique.
Yeah, remember the stick.
But tell me, hang on,
I
Rob.
just
No, tell me.
Read the script. Read the Nostradamus.
That was
Tell
it.
me.
In the city of God,
Yeah.
there will be a great thunder.
Yep.
2 brothers torn apart by chaos. While
That could have been Romeo and Juliet. I mean,
yes,
really. It's,
while the fortress endures, the great leader will succumb.
Yeah.
Well, is that Osama or is that Bush?
Yeah, that home and away, really. I mean,
that is Aries from the
Yes,
25th of
yes.
October to...
Tell me about Nostradamus. Like, people always trot him out.
they love him, don't they? Yeah.
Who do you know about him?
Oh, he was... Oh, look, I'll guess. But,
Yeah.
I bet I'm in the ball.
He had a beard. We know that.
Yeah.
He was 15th century, wrote great predictions in a backhand script it was so dangerous to write them that he had to hide his predictions.
Right. Okay.
It was like the Lambada. It was the forbidden dance, sort of in text.
So
form.
Nostradamus,
Yeah,
you know.
never quite.
People, another one that was fake. This was another email. The email is just full of lies.
Yeah.
And I had to tell Santo this. He always loves to get something off the email.
And brings it
he
in, prints it out,
Yeah,
goes,
he goes, that's amazing. But there was an email that went around about, after it first happened, the Palestinians supposedly dancing in the streets, right? Then an email went around saying that they weren't dancing in the street. That was lifted from another documentary in 1991, which you get and you go, ooh, that'd be right. Of course, that's not true.
Oh, okay.
That's not true. And doesn't it make sense that if they can get 19 people to die on planes hijacking, then they're going to be able to find 50 people dancing about it? You know, just like logic tells you that.
What that doesn't... What that,
Oh, we've got people to fly the planes, we just can't find people to dance.
But what it also doesn't deal with is the deeper issue, which is the fact that that was a very small, by all accounts, a very small proportion of the Palestinian population, and it just goes to sort of inflame the situation, you know, I think, which is
But the
very
fact is that it's different than saying that it never happened, which is bending too far the other way.
No, it's not.
You know?
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that they had that one bit of footage that CNN replayed, and they very occasionally showed the bit with the Palestinians commiserating. You know,
It was pretty inflammatory, really.
I think so, very.
Well, I think that even if they didn't dance, there was going to be footage. It was almost like you just knew it was a secret.
It had to be there.
You've used Santo's name in vain. And I tell you what, at the end of Richard Butler and Santo last week, I had them going into a tiebreaker. and I've got to say, Santo won the tiebreaker. This is from I said, was that in the history books? And
when you said about the mafia control
Oh, I
concrete.
didn't see the show. Can you bring me up to speed a little bit, please?
No.
Oh,
You
didn't
this
you?
is really
Didn't watch it,
interesting.
Glenn.
Oh, were you too busy having a good time with you, Glenn, up at Maroochydore?
Yeah, I was actually.
Santo said this thing that the reason that that the World Trade Center was built out of steel
Yeah.
was that in New York, as opposed to in Australia, where the building would have been made out of concrete,
Yes.
because the mafia controls concrete in New York. So that's part of
interesting.
it. And Richard Butler was a bit antsy about it.
He said that Nostradamus predicted that.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
It said the concrete racket is one of the most lucrative of all construction shakedowns worked by the mafia mobs across the country. FBI tapes showed that in the 1980s, Big Paul Castellano, as head of the Gambino crime family until his murder in 1985, got a cut of every gob of concrete poured on the Manhattan skyline.
Has this come off the internet email?
No, the mafia encyclopedia. As a result, construction costs in New York were and are the highest in the country. So game, set and match, Santa Chilano.
There you
Right, well,
go,
we
see?
stand. We stand.
We
easy.
never doubted
I
it.
believed him when he said
Yeah, I
Good on
believed
you.
him too.
I feel
I've got.
like
Sorry, I saw an ad in America when I was there a few weeks ago, and I finally tracked it down after a month. A really good running ad. In fact, I'm not even sure what it's for. I just play the.
Sorry. Air Future Max by Nike.
The reason
Only at finish line.
the reason it took
Place
us a
to go
month
for
to
Nike.
find it is because Santo said it's an ad involving Goran Ivanisevic.
and it wasn't wrong name. Can I show a bit? There's a sketch comedy. I've rediscovered the love of sketch comedy. I told you I had an idea for a sketch today, not a good one, but there's a show in England just debuted on ITV called The Sketch Show, and it's just sketches. This is a tiny little bit. It's
fantastic.
not out here. Don't know whether it will be.
Daddy, can we go home now?
Not long to go now, Pop Pit. Just a few more things to get.
But I'm tired.
Come on, little Miss Lazybones. Let's go and get some bread.
Yeah, one more.
Oh God.
That was a bit windy coming over that bridge, wasn't it?
Simple, The Sketch Show, ITV, but you can't watch it. Coming up next, we have a special international guest. Can't say too much. Next on the panel.
This is a 10 News Update.
Good evening, I'm Jessica Rowe. Making news tonight, a breakthrough in the Ansett crisis. 11 Ansett planes will be back in the air by Monday after an agreement between the government and administrators. The last walls of the World Trade Center come crashing down. Also, the Tampa refugees arrive in New Zealand. A mum's amazing recovery after life-saving transplant surgery. And footy fever across the country ahead of this weekend's finals. All the details in the late news.
And ahead in sports tonight, the Bombers go through their paces. There's still concern over their injured pair, skipper James Hird and Mark McCurry. Kevin Sheedy is confident they'll play in Saturday's grand final. However, Michael Long is now definitely out after snapping his hamstring at training. Newcastle winger Adam McDougall has been struck down with a virus. The Knights have confirmed he didn't travel to Sydney with his teammates, but they're hopeful he can resume training tomorrow and be right for the grand final. Plus basketball, soccer and plenty more. If it happened in sport today, see it on Sports Tonight. Join us after the news.
Needs no introduction. However, contractually, we are obliged to provide one. And in fact, according to his agent, it must contain the phrase Hollywood heartthrob, star of A Knight's Tale, on-screen son of Mel Gibson. Say hello to Mr. Heath Ledger.
Can I go straight off the bat? When was you come from Los Angeles?
What now?
Yeah,
right now.
When was the last time you were in the States?
I was back there for... No, I wasn't. I was in Perth, actually, on the big day. But, no, I kind of... I haven't been working for the last couple of months. I've had time off. I went through Europe with some friends and just travelled, and that's it. And I've been spending time at home in Perth with my family.
And have you talked to your friends back there?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
How are they feeling?
They're a little shook up, obviously. And... I don't know, they say it's just a real weird vibe right now in LA. It's kind of, all the cars have American flags flying on them, there's tattoo shops with, free stars and star and stripe tattoos, available.
And Hollywood's sort of shut down, hasn't it? It's really
all the
ground
studios
to a halt.
apparently have shut.
Yeah. It's sort of weird because Hollywood is based so much about purely entertainment, and all of that seems so frivolous right at the moment.
Yeah,
but it's also that people are very frightened to be gathered in large numbers, like at Universal Studios, anything, and that's going to probably include cinemas and all that sort of thing for a while. Must be horrible. Must be just an awful feeling.
No.
And taking a break that's a brave thing to do. A lot of people say, when you're starting out, you just take movie after movie. You've made a decision. You want to break?
Yeah, I did the movie after movie thing for 2 years straight, and it just wore me out. It was 6-day weeks, 18-hour days. And
how many times do you reckon you're going to play Mel Gibson's son?
And I don't know, a couple more times.
Yeah. do you reckon, because I always think, you always hear, they talk about actors doing back-to-back movies, and I'm sure, and then they have a nervous breakdown. And I'm sure people are going, but it's not hard work. People have got no idea, have they, of the hours that are involved and
Yeah, I know. I guess...
not that you want to whinge about a good situation,
exactly,
but it is a lot harder work, I think, than people think.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I guess the last one, I did a small movie called Monsters Ball, but before that, I did this giant epic with Shaker Kapoor, and, things like I had 3.5 hours in the makeup chair every morning, so I'd get to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, get out of the makeup chair at 6, get home at, 10, p.m., and I really had like 4 hours sleep a night for 6 months every day.
When I did Babe 2, I spent 2.5 months in a rubber suit. So. Tell me about it. And in a harness.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
It drives you crazy.
It does.
Sitting there looking in the mirror,
it
drives you mad. Really does.
What were you getting made up to be in three and a half
Arab,
hours?
actually. My character, he goes off to Africa and disguises himself as an Arab for a year. It's the story of Four Feathers. I don't know if you know it. They've done it like 5 times before.
Oh, yeah, they get sent the white feathers.
Yeah.
Cowardice or something. Yeah.
And where did you shoot it?
In Morocco.
Oh, did you like that?
Yeah, loved it. Loved it.
But with those hours, do you actually... Is that 5 days or 7 days a week when you're talking those...
6 days.
So you get 1 day and presumably you're not going to go off...
You don't do anything.
On a mad sight.
You can't, yeah. And because we're so isolated, we're in this little town called... we're in, where is it? Erfurt. And so there was nothing there. There was one Casbah and that was it. So it was pure isolation. And it was just our hotel room. You'd go home and you're just in your hotel room by yourself, eat the same thing for dinner every night. You just had a routine, and that was it.
So you didn't rock the Casbah?
I didn't.
No. So what are you thinking now? You want to sort of maybe not base yourself so much there, more here, or
yeah, I do. I don't know. I think I might. I want to try and keep my place over there for another year or so, but I really want to move back here. I'm really missing home and my friends and stuff like that.
Can we say that your dad's in with you tonight and your sister?
Yep, and my dad and my sister. Right.
Yeah, they are. Now that's your sister there. She was an actress. Oh, she what? But she got you into acting, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
No, we actually reunited them before the show.
When you're sort of making these decisions about what films you'll take up and that sort of thing, do you go into a consultative sort of situation with like a manager, an agent? Do you have a team of people? Do you go on gut instinct? What sort of...
Gut instinct, yeah.
Yep.
You know, generally I'll go against the first things that my agents bring to me because
Okay.
you know it's CAA and they're
right.
they're like, you know, blockbuster, big, you know, fire engines, explosions, and action and you know,
Hero stuff? Is it hero, classic Hollywood hero
well, especially
stuff?
after
or-
A Knight's Tale, that's all.
Yeah.
that.
But that's all going to change now anyway, because I was reading in the New York Times the other day that they're saying there's a major rethink in
Yeah.
terms of blockbusters, you know, the blow 'em up, all that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So you're going to
I know.
head for the
It's kind of
romantic
like we've
comedies,
witnessed a
or
little bit of like life imitating art in a sick, surreal way.
But in a
Yeah,
way
it
that they
is,
kept
yeah.
saying, they kept saying during those first few days, this was like some scene from a movie, and you're going, no, it's nothing like a scene from a movie because it's really powerful and awful, and you know, it wasn't Independence Day at all, was it?
But then when you looked at all those projects that had been pulled at the moment, the
Collateral damage
storylines of all of them.
Have you seen the
all
Siege?
involved,
Have you seen
yeah.
the Siege? It's
No.
virtually.
That's what my housemate said. That's what
is
she said,
scary.
yeah.
And it is almost like sort of that, you know, the dreaming of Hollywood has imagined for people, you know, you created a vision, almost a map for people of how to strike at the heart of, you know, what would be the
like
worst
Fight Club
nightmare.
and all those kind of
Yeah.
And there were you doing good, wholesome stuff, jousting.
Are we allowed?
I was going to say. Was that what it was like?
Does it hurt? Of course it would.
Did you take many hits, mate? Did you take many
No,
hits?
I didn't take any. They wouldn't let me ride a bicycle insurance-wise, let alone get knocked
So
off
you
a
didn't
horse.
properly learn?
I did. Yeah, I mean, at times I had to do it, but I mean, those guys were crazy. You know, those stunnies were really hitting each other. Like,
Stunnies are mad.
They are
They are a
mad,
breed
yeah.
apart.
Yeah, they
But
really are.
don't you reckon one of the great things I think with doing film is that you get to really vicariously do so
Live it
many
out,
adventurous things like, you know, I don't know, an astronaut, fireman, you know, all
Yeah,
those sort of
yeah,
things without the tedium.
Yeah, definitely.
But then is there also a temptation to start to believe your own publicity?
Yes and no. I can understand it, but you know, I really don't really read a lot of it, and I just don't believe it. I really don't believe the stuff,
It's
good or
hard
bad,
not
especially
to,
the good
though.
stuff. You know, I think it's really healthy
If someone's
not to believe
interested
the
in
good stuff.
if you, what's the process of getting you for a movie? How does it happen? They then send you the script and you go, yeah, I like it. What happens then? Do you go talk to the director?
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's a screened process, you know. It's not like everything, you know, doesn't just arrive on my doorstep. Obviously, it goes through the agency, and then they make their decisions, and then you get what they think is right for you.
I should warn you, Glenn's got a script he wants to
I was thinking, what's this? What's this under the table?
back away very quickly. Is it true you're keen to play the role of Ned Kelly?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking about it right now.
You know who's played that before you, don't you?
Yeah.
That is a great idea,
yes.
I
Yeah.
reckon. It's
He was
one
a
of those,
young guy, you know. He died at like 25 or something. 26.
yeah, and
I know,
it's
but it's
been
an interesting thing in history, isn't it? Often you go, you expect everyone to be like 50 when they do
I know,
something important.
especially like the beard.
He had the
Really, was
beard,
he
exactly.
25?
So you
Was he
figured,
25?
yeah.
God, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
But it's more armour, you do know that, don't you?
I was going to ask you something. I read this in a profile like 3 years ago that you were a very good hockey player. Tell me I've got that right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I played hockey for 15 years of my life, yeah.
Right.
It was a big part of my life.
Were you a
and,
bully? The bully?
Was I what?
The bully. Hockey
no.
1, hockey 2?
No, I was... that rule was out by the time I started playing hockey. I think.
really?
Yeah.
Because I asked our office
Yeah.
somehow find a photo of Heath as a
Playing
hockey player.
Oh,
And
Oh,
that's
which
nice.
one? Help us here.
Get closer. Hang on, don't tell us.
I can...
Did you have... How
No
was
idea.
your hair?
That was
Front
just-
row.
no,
Front
that's just
row.
chosen it.
There.
Yeah. Lock it in.
Back row. Back row.
Never have got that. Oh, okay.
And where's Heath?
You weren't goalie, were you?
No, where am I?
Oh, don't.
Wait, but that's just a hockey team.
Right,
Okay.
Oh, right,
That's
look.
just a random.
That could be anybody.
No, I was going to say, but that was at a fair level, wasn't it? At a state level.
Oh, yeah, I did. I played for Western Australia a little bit, like junior level and stuff like that.
So you must have reached a crossroads where you either enter the glamorous world of field hockey or the leading
Yeah.
the leading man.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a huge decision. It was never going to be a career of mine, you know. It was just like any kid plays any sport, and, you know, I just kept following it. But, yeah, it did get to a place where, you know, I was splitting my focus. It was one or the other, so, you know, it wasn't that hard.
Oh, just on the Hollywood thing again, how does it feel when you meet, like, blindingly famous people? I know, like, when I met Linda Evangelista, just say, for example, at this, you know, big dinner thing, And it's one of those times when you meet someone you think, my God, so many people in the world know who this person is. How did that feel for you when suddenly you've gone from being, you know, just a bloke in Australia to, you know, playing Mel Gibson's son, meeting Mel Gibson, hanging around with him and people of that sort of ilk, and then when it becomes normal?
It was good and bad, because sometimes you get disappointed, you know. Now sometimes I don't really want to meet some people because it kind of destroys
assholes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess, and then on the other hand, you know, you can be pleasantly surprised. They can be just really genuine, normal, nice people, and it kind of, that.
But then,
well, at the end of the movie, after 30, 40 days, you must go. It's just, you know, then that drifts away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. If you're working with them, for sure. Yeah.
Were we a disappointment to you tonight?
Just drifted away.
Hey, A Knight's Tale is still screening and doing extremely well around the country. It's a very funny movie. Check it out if you get a chance, and we look forward to seing you in the big metallic bucket as
awesome.
Mr. Ned Kelly. Good luck with whatever project you take up next, and your tailor. Would you please thank Mr. Heath Ledger for joining us this evening? Back with more panel right after this.
Here, you either play music, listen to music, or move to Utah. Billy got kicked out of music school. That's kind of why we hired him. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes daylight seems out of place here, but it does let you get some sleep. There's no better place to be exactly who you are. Drop by sometime. Jack lives here.
It's been a busy few weeks in both international and domestic politics, and one bloke who spent most of his life covering that field is with us now. Senior ABC political journalist and host of The Insiders. Say hello to Mr. Barry Cassidy.
I was briefly mentioning beforehand, I was going to ask you on it, is what happens when John Howard realises he has to call George Bush, or how practically is it done in the office? I mean, does someone just pick up a phone and go, White House, please?
Well, I actually made one of those phone calls myself once when I was working for Bob Hawke many years ago, and we're down at Renmark doing a propaganda exercise on the environment. And I had to go leave a hotel room at about 7 in the morning and go to his room to make the call. I had the number and been given to me. And I ran into Peter Harvey from Channel 9, and he said, hey, did you hear about the plane crash in Chicago? There were about 200 people killed or something, and it had just been announced on CNN. And I said, no, I didn't. I went into the room and I phoned up the White House, and you get this guy who's really a receptionist. And he insists that your Prime Minister go on the line, because your Prime Minister, he talks to the Prime Minister, and then our Prime Minister gets to talk to another staffer, and then finally, when the US President gets on the phone, of course, he talks to nobody but the Prime Minister. And of course, Hawke said, now listen, let me start by saying I'm really sorry to hear about that dreadful plane crash in Chicago. And he said, what plane crash? And the staff had kept it from him until after the phone call. So, Peter Harvey told President George Bush about a plane crash in Chicago, and to this day, Peter Harvey probably doesn't know that.
This is one of the things I've been wondering about, because can I read you this? It's from a book called The First Casualty, which is in reference to the fact that they say the first casualty in war is the truth. And I think what most of us have been doing over this last couple of weeks, I know I have, is madly scouring everywhere for information to try and make up my mind and have some sort of sense of perspective and make sense, and also morally to sort of come to some position. And this is from World War II, and it's in reference to Pearl Harbor. And it's a quote from a guy from the Chicago Daily News, and it says, in this nation of ours, the final political decisions rest with the people, and the people, so that they may make up their minds, must be given the facts, even in time of war, or perhaps especially in time of war. And what I sort of keep wondering is, where can you go to actually get a reliable source? There's nothing but disinformation on the net. CNN has a particular sort of slant. Do you have any sort of any tips or pointers where what you think is a reliable source?
Too philosophical for decent company, I think. Well, that's a quote, and I'm not even sure who said it. Look, the facts are straight away. 7,000 innocent civilians were killed in the United States. I mean, we know that straight away.
Yeah.
And we know that terrorists did it, and we know that terrorists are being trained in that part of the world, and it seems to me like a good idea to go and get them. And that's what's happening now. Whether truth is going to be a casualty, I suppose it always is, because for certain operational reasons and so on.
Because CNN they've got, like, it seems to me, like in the old days it was, loose lips sink ships, and they would censor your mail and you couldn't talk about what movements if you were a soldier going somewhere. Now they've got graphs, they've got little things telling you where everywhere troops.
I'll give you a classic piece of censorship at the ABC. A memo went out about a week ago to all radio commentators that they were not to say anything derogatory about the Taliban.
Right.
Just quite extraordinary.
On what grounds?
Well, I guess because of some sort of racist overtone or whatever. I mean, so, here I am on Channel 10. I can say that the Taliban execute women for adultery. They've been known to throw acid in the face of young girls who don't wear veils and so on. I can get it off my chest on Channel 10.
That photo I showed earlier, I didn't mean to do that. But yes, you can do it on the ABC.
Oh, look, I think that I can completely understand why strategically there are things that we're not told, but I think everyone is so grappling with trying to make sense of what's going on. But sometimes I think that really we're getting like a tiny portion of it anyway, and we're all just. I feel like I ping pong around to try and find something. I'm like a ping pong ball in a hurricane. Just this, that, or
Did you sit in on briefings, on the security briefings, or did you have to leave the room?
No, not on the security briefings. I was only involved in really looking after the media.
Right. Do you think that holding cabinet papers for 30 years is a little on the safe side?
Well, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, even we beat it up even now, and try and make the most of it, but it's never a great story after 30 years, is it? Yeah. Unless you can bring down a minister, what's the point?
Yes, exactly.
I was going to ask, do you have any feel of when the election's going to be held and who will come out of it?
It really depends on two things. Like, there's a bit of a rumour going around that Tony Blair won't be coming to Choggum, and if that happens, Choggum will probably be cancelled. Right. And say if Choggum is cancelled the next few days, I think you can expect the election to be called on Sunday for Derby Day, would you believe? November the 3rd.
This Sunday.
It could be called this Sunday, but why wouldn't John Howard go at the first opportunity? And the only thing that's holding him up right now is that the Queen will be in the country until...
And that must be such a dilemma for him, because he'd love the Queen to visit, let's face it.
I think he'd prefer to win an election, quite frankly.
They're really talking up Choggum now, though. That it's still...
There's a question mark hanging over it.
Interesting.
I'm not suggesting it'll be cancelled, but if it is, I think you could expect the election to be called
and it's a key player
right away.
I mean, it becomes a bit of a pointless exercise when it's Nauru and us, really. No disrespect to Nauru.
Because you've worked so personally. No, not on the ABC. No. Because you've worked so personally, for instance, say with Bob Hawke. But what we were talking about this last week, what is the line that a leader has between obviously feeling worried about what's happening in the world and at some level degree of glee about the fact that it's been so... Like, this has been very lucky for John Howard politically.
But he's got to be careful not to show that in any of his interviews, and I think he's handling himself fairly well in that respect. I mean, there was a suggestion that to call an election right now would appear as if he's simply exploiting the current mood, but the fact is that on Saturday we go to 3 years since the last election. And I think that's the longest period without an election since Billy McMahon about 30 years ago, so... There's plenty of justification for calling it.
What do you reckon the feeling is around Bush? Because they keep picking over the, all the words that he uses in his speeches, but he's so inarticulate. He's got a vocabulary of about 30 words. When he speaks off the cuff, when he's got a written speech, that was very masterful what he did. But when he speaks off the cuff, they say he mentioned the word war 7 times, and that's because he has no other nouns. He's bound to repeat himself, and they're kind of trying to make so much.
Well, for a long time, only he was all hat and no cattle, as they say, and that speach really turned things around a bit.
It did, didn't it?
But again, it shows he can deliver a speech that somebody else writes. He has got good people around him, and just as well. But what is really worrying is that before he became president, he'd travelled out of the country twice. Once to Canada and once to Mexico. What does he know about the world? And now he's poring over a map and looking at these countries, with all these stars at the end of it, and he's got to figure out where they are.
Do you feel that, say, for example, like...
Do you know all your stands? I'm having trouble with my stands.
I've been to 1 or 2 of them, yeah.
Well, because Al Gore, for example, by comparison, he was very outward-looking, very engaged with foreign policy, whereas he is a really reluctant sort of politician.
Did you see him at the funeral service the other day? He now has a beard.
And I heard...
A true Al Gore.
I heard an American commentator saying he really needs to lose the beard at this time. He can't go on television with the beard.
Barry, you say, George Bush has got good people around him, but we were chatting to Richard Butler last week, and he was saying you can have all the good people around you, but ultimately it comes down to the man in charge. And that's. Do you sort of, you were there, covered the Clinton election, do you kind of wish maybe someone else was in power at the moment?
Well, it's too close. Too late for a recount in Florida.
Yeah.
That's done, right? So let's not go over that. Look, he's probably right, but in the end, and that is true. If you look back at the crisis when the Kennedys were in office, the Kennedys in the end made the call, the big calls, and somebody has to make the big call. It won't be Cheney, it won't be Powell, it has to be Bush. So keep your fingers crossed.
Did you get a sense when you're working with Hawkey that that's a kind of a lonely time for them?
During this
making big decisions.
Well, we had virtually a bathtub in the Gulf. It wasn't a huge time for us. It wasn't a particularly scary moment.
It's still a commitment, though, isn't it?
It's a commitment, and it's also a commitment that can lead to loss of Australian lives.
Right.
And so you don't make that lightly. But and the big decision for John Howard to take is to whether we commit ground troops. And we probably will. If they ask for our SAS forces, we'll probably commit them because they're the best in the world. They really do the sort of stuff they need.
How does that normally happen? Because a government can just say, we're going. We don't have to debate it in the Houses of Parliament. We don't have to.
No.
Because John Howard...
Conscription would be a different thing, but to commit troops you don't have to.
Right. He did sort of leap into that, didn't he? And it seemed to me a rather emotional response, whereas the Europeans were very considered, possibly because they've experienced for hundreds of years war on their turf. And John Howard was sort of right in there very quickly without having consulted with the Cabinet or with the nation, for that matter.
Yeah,
I'm not saying right or wrong at all.
Sure, but the words he used too were interesting. At the time he said that we will commit to the limit of our capabilities. Well, what's the opposite of that? We won't commit beyond our capabilities. Of course you won't.
Yeah.
So he's sort of, that's a blank check.
That's almost up to the hilt, isn't it?
It is. And ever since he's been trying to use different language.
I'm hoping there's a big commitment so we can send Sarah Mareva over to entertain the troops. I think that'd be I think she was missing from East Timor, Barry.
She could handle the stands.
She could indeed. We shall watch
she's great. I love her. I think she's
I'm trying to wind this up. We'll watch the following weeks with fear and interest. Thanks for your perspective this evening. Barry Cassidy, ladies and gentlemen. The Insider at ABC TV, and indeed more panel right after this. Well, it's shaping up to be a huge week in sport, and one bloke who lives for little else is with us now. Please give a big finals week welcome to Mr. Steve Quartermain. Yes, big week in footy, isn't it, with the NRL and the AFL Grand Finals. That's all very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
But a bit of housekeeping first. The Scud made his comeback tonight after 6 months out. He won his first round match in Hong Kong.
Right. Is that an injury?
Yes, very bad knee injury, actually. So he's made his first progress tonight. And Hansi Cronje has just started his court case in South Africa. He's challenging his life ban. Hansi claims it was unfairly imposed and that it interferes with his personal life. Well, yeah,
how inconvenient.
Yeah, how inconvenient. Yeah, he claims he can't earn a living now, but I guess...
So he wants it reduced, do you agree?
He wants to go back and commentate, and, well, he wants to play, but there's no way he's going to play again, but he wants to be able to earn a living out of cricket.
Did I see something on the news tonight where someone took... A weightlifter took drugs?
Yes.
A weightlifter took drugs?
There's a shot.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Yes, and he's Australian too.
And did he... It
was at the Goodwill Games.
What's the standard, the deal for that?
Well, it's pretty
2
much...
years,
Well, depends. I mean, it's all sports are different, but he's finished. And he doesn't get his prize money from the Goodwill Games?
Yes,
he loses about $60,000, yes.
You know, that's a fair...
But the big story today is Michael Jordan. Arguably the world's greatest athlete of all time, is making a comeback, his second comeback at the age of 38 for the Washington Wizards. He's 3 years into his second retirement. He's won 6 titles, of course, with the Chicago Bulls. This was his last game when he played for Chicago. He's signed for 2 years with the Washington Wizards, who are, let's face it, one of the crappiest teams in the NBA. They've won 19 of their 82 games last year. He's certainly not in it for the money. In fact, he's donating he's on the minimum salary. He's signed with the minimum salary, which is $2.6 million.
Yeah.
When you consider his last year with Chicago, he earned just his salary $67 million. But he's donated his entire salary to the relief fund for the organisations involved with the terrorist attacks, which is
how they used to say they're a really bad team. Will they be a bad team with Michael Jordan playing for them?
Well, they've just got some really good draft picks, and I think the fact that Michael Jordan's there for 2 years, he will attract
I mean, everyone wants to play with Michael Jordan.
Can he still play? Or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of criticism now saying, look, he's obviously past his best, and what is he playing for? It's certainly not money. It's obviously ego, and that he's a competitor and he's driven to compete.
And what if he just enjoys playing basketball?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, let him play basketball. He's bouncing a ball up and down the court. Let him do it.
A 38-year-old Michael Jordan's still better than most immortals, but he's gone through a lot of process to get to this point. I mean, he's been practicing for 6 months. He broke his ribs at practice. He's hurt his knee at practice. In fact, he went to the extent of hiring some of the top NBA players and hiring the NBA referees and having little match practice sessions to see that he still had it. But consider some of the facts. Like Washington are a bit of a joke over there. They had one national game. The season's about to start. And they had one national game for the whole year in the TV schedule. 6 hours after he announced his comeback, there's 25 national games for Washington. Right. Nike shares, of course, he's a big Nike man. The Nike shares are going to shoot up again. They've already set a record for ticket sales already since he's come back. The NBA, the entire NBA TV contract's up at the end of this season. That's going to shoot up again. So all these little things involved with Michael Jordan's
and
comeback.
His endorsements too. I mean, to say that he's donating his salary is kind of like...
Well, he earns still
more from Kellogg's.
He earns $75 million a year conservatively from just still his endorsements. So he's not struggling, let's put it that way.
Do you know, it's funny, I spoke to a guy that was, before Don Bradman came back for 1948, he wanted to see whether he,
still had it.
And so he organised, I think it was like a school or something in Adelaide. I spoke to a guy who played in the match. He had just a bit of a tester to see whether...
Had he retired? Did he retire and then come back too?
Well, the Second World War.
Oh, okay, so he was off for that.
And he got him out LBW. It's a school kid getting out Don Bradman.
Oh, really?
It's all it's all for the love of the game, isn't it? It's like that guy. Did you ever see the guy that had for halftime entertainment in the basketball during the Olympics, where he would bounce the ball on his head? I mean, it's obviously some sort of compulsive need to
entertain. Yes.
Well, he's got issues, that guy.
But he could do the Harlem Globetrotters or something.
Well, that's what some of his critics have said. That's where he should be now, playing for the Harlem Globetrotters. But he is an awesome athlete, and it's great for the sport, which is struggling at the moment. I think the NBA with particularly role models, because some of the guys considered the stars now, like Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson, aren't the best of role models. I mean, they've got themselves... And the attitude's not right anyway.
And Steve, did you have any feedback from the dim sim man from last week?
Quite a bit, actually.
Oh, did you?
No, people loved it.
I've got to say, I thought it just made me really hungry for dim sim.
We've got some tonight after the show.
And Jordan's coming back, but Luke Longley, I remember... talked about him a couple of months ago. He actually announced his retirement today. He's had all the tests, and his ankle is absolutely shot to bits. So our most successful Australian in the NBA, Luke Longley, retired today with 3 rings. Of course, he played alongside Michael Jordan in those heady days of Chicago. And he's going to retire with, he's earning millions. He's getting the big payout from New York. I can't remember off the top what it was, but it's certainly over double figures in the millions.
So how long has he been playing now?
Luke's been playing for about 10 years. He played about 560-odd games.
Is that a pretty reasonable career span?
Fantastic career. He's 7 foot, so he's a great, most successful player overseas. Basketball, also last year I talked about how successful Australian basketball was going, but some pretty major hiccups the last couple of days. Poor NBL, the National Basketball League, after 20 years with Qantas, a couple of months ago decided to go with Ansett.
Good move,
So that didn't go too well, and of course Ansett was their new sponsor of their pre-season competition, which was about to start. That's been cancelled. And for the first time in history on the weekend, the Australian team have failed to qualify for the World Championships. They lost to New Zealand in the best-of-3 series.
Wow,
and it's we've lost once to them before. That was about 20-odd years ago, when I think the guys had been out on the Terps the night before in a match that didn't really rate. But look, Phil Smyther's the coach, and he's made some... Look, they've lost a lot of players like Heel and Gaze and Vlahoff and Bradke have all retired from international duty. And Phil Smyther, who I think's been a great Australian player and a good coach also, he's taken over as coach. But the mail is, and I hate to say this, that 8 months into his contract, 4-year contract, the mail going around today is that he's going to be sacked in the next couple of days, which is pretty heavy response to it is pretty embarrassing, though, to lose New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly.
But
very embarrassing.
We lost in tennis to Zimbabwe.
Different.
Yeah, so it looks like Phil Smyther's going to get the flick, which is a bit disappointing.
Just take us out with one.
Well, Harry Kewell, who's one of our great soccer talents, alongside Mark Viduka, they play with Leeds now. Harry has only played 90 minutes. He kicked a couple of goals on the weekend, by the way. This is the goals on the weekend. He's only played 90 minutes for Australia in the last 2 years. Now, we've got this big friendly coming up at the MCG in November again.